Animate Project 2, Stage 3, Creating Frame Animations. Make sure you read the top section of page 108. Remember that we are working with frames per second, and the file is default set to 24 frames per second, which is the standard frame rate for most movies. HD formats will run as high as 120 frames per second. Animations that are done only for web are developed at 15 frames per second. And remember, the 24 frames per second was chosen for the audio quality. A keyframe indicates a point in time where something changes. A populated keyframe just simply means there's something going on. Regular frames between keyframes have exactly the same content as the keyframe in front of it. We're going to work with adding streaming sound. Streaming sound is also called progressive downloading. Streaming sounds are linked to the timeline, which means they stop playing if the timeline stops. We're going to add a new layer called talking right above the mouth layer. Select frame 1 of the talking layer, and in the Properties panel choose Intro Talking, and in the Sync choose Stream. Now go to Control and test your movie. The background sound plays, but the intro talking sound doesn't. Remember, streaming sounds are related to the position of the playhead on the timeline. They're dependent on that timeline. Because this file only has one keyframe, one active frame, nothing else, the playhead doesn't have any place to move. The sound file isn't going to play. In the timeline, you're going to go to frame 95 of the talking layer and right-click on it and insert a frame. And we can now see the WAV file. The other layers haven't been extended yet, so the graphics are not going to be visible. Select frame 95 of the buttons layer and press F5. Because we've inserted that keyframe in frame 95 on the buttons layer, all of the frames between 1 and 95 are now populated with those graphics. We need to now populate the other frames through frame 95 so that our animation will play. So we're going to select frame 95 in the mouth layer, shift click to select frame 95 in the background layer, and if you press F5 you will populate everything across. Now we can actually go to the beginning and we can even play our movie here.
Need help? Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for.
And if we go to Control and Test.
Need help? Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for. Need help? Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for.
Music and electronics, casual and fine dining.
Okay, so that's maybe a little bit much. Right now, our figure doesn't talk even though we have her voice coming. Her lips don't move. So we're going to get this now set up for lip syncing. We're going to use those lovely little mouth symbols. Remember, they were set up. Mouth 1 is silent or for an M, a B, or a P sound. Mouth 2 for C, D, G, J, K, N, R, S, Y, Z. You can read through all the stuff. It's listed in your book on page 111. We have the symbols. We simply have to put those mouth shapes in on the correct keyframe to get her to look like she's talking. We're going to make this all just a little more visible. So in the timeline layers, double click the icon to the left of the talking layer to get the property panel to open. And for a layer height, we're going to change this to 300%. So now you can really see what's going on with the variation in the waveform. Click frame 1 above the timeline to reset the playhead at the beginning of the movie. We could scrub this as they direct you to in the book, but I'm going to skip that part. We're going to select frame 3 of the mouths layer. Let me bring her in a little bit better so we can see what the changes are. So let me zoom in on her a little more. And we're going to select frame 3 in the mouth layer. And we're going to press F6 to insert a new keyframe. Click the mouth symbol on the stage so that we get the properties to show, and click the swap button in the properties panel, and we're going to select mouth 2. Drag the playhead to the right to find the next significant change in sound. Select frame 8. Enlarge this so that we can see a little better what the frames are. There you go. Stretch those out. Okay, so in frame 8 we're going to add another keyframe, and this time we're going to swap and put in mouth 5. We're moving to frame 10. Pick up the mouth shape again, and in the dialog box we're going to swap to mouth 3. Go back to frame 1, press your enter to play.
Need help? Use.
So you can see how she starts to look a little bit like she's talking. You're going to continue on with step 13, placing the different mouth symbols in the specified frames. Okay, go back to frame 1 and play your animation.
Need help? Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for.
Okay, now you can save your file. We had mentioned at the beginning of this chapter about the sound compression settings. So we're going to have a little bit of control over what we're doing with these sounds. We want to have the correct compressions for each sound so that they sound correct. We're going to go to the Atrium Jazz file, and if you will right click that and open up the properties for the file, make sure you're on the Options tab, and we want our compression to be in MP3. If you can access it, uncheck the imported MP3 quality and choose 48K for our bit rate. Choose best for the quality and say OK. Open the Sound Properties dialog box for the intro talking sound file. And in the compression menu, use speech. Choose 11 kHz for the sample rate and hit the test button.
Need help? Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for.
You're going to hear a lot of popping and hissing behind that. So we want to change that to the 44 kHz and then hit
Need help?
test.
Use the buttons to find exactly what you're looking for.
This is a much better sound file, so we're going to use that compression ratio. Okay, you're going to say OK to that. You're going to save your file. For this lesson, you are going to submit to me this file, just the Atrium Kiosk file. Save it as an FLA file, but make sure you include your initials with this so that I can identify whose file is whose. I'll be downloading all of these as a batch file so that you don't have to send me all of your other files like your audio file and your button file. I'm going to assume that everything is done correctly and I'll know whether it plays or not. So there's a lot of assumptions that I need to make on this. So please, because we aren't to the point where we're exporting out yet, please send me the Atrium Kiosk file, include your initials in the name, and that way I will download that and put that into my file with all of the supporting graphics so that I can check your animation.